Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Howdy, Rhoda Laughlin here. This is the Corner Bookstore, and today is the first of 3 shows back to back to back. I'll be on again as soon as the show is over, and as soon as the next show is over, I'll be on again. When I'm not doing TV shows, I research the human body at the cellular level, chemically speaking. I'll look for cause and effect relationships. Treat a cause, fix a problem. Treat symptoms, and you'll always be treating symptoms. So that's what I specialize in. I focus primarily on longevity and age-related diseases. I have a new book coming out very shortly, probably as early as June, called Aging Sucks. I'm still working the subtitle and the cover. I'll be debuting those here on this channel here, not too distant future. I also have a webinar series coming up, probably starting as early as March. That I'll be going into some details about aging and health and pain and just a number of different things at the grassroots level of what can be done. Most of the time I try to stay somewhere between the 5,000 and 30,000 foot level. But today I'm very honored to have Miles Spencer as my guest. He is a historical fiction writer, has several things claimed to fame, and so we're going to get right into him. Miles, please join me right up here on stage, please.
Hey, Red. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
We were talking backstage, and you were saying that you had #1 rating in Saudi Arabia or something like that. Did I catch that right?
I was and remain a bestseller on Kindle in Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Syria, based on the book A Line in the Sand. That's right.
A Line in the Sand. We'll get to that one here very shortly. When did you start writing?
Well, arguably never during my schooling. I was an okay student, but I actually began a blog maybe 20 years ago, and always, 500 words, kind of 2 or 3 times a week, ranting and raving in my own quiet way about observations, what's going on, mostly in technology, sometimes in life. And I just kept it up until a few years ago, I actually had a story about our hike in the Middle East, and I was surprised in my ability to get 50,000 words down at a time, and it worked. So, when you think about a story for 15 years, it's easier to write in 6 weeks. But it was all based on an amazing adventure I had taken with my adventure partner, Willis Jones. And we've done several since then. And that's become kind of a genre for us.
Are you familiar with the Facebook group called My 500 Words?
I am not. I learn something new every day, but I will look that up afterwards.
A little over 10 years ago, I joined it. My wife was going through chemotherapy, and I was just looking for some kind of release as a caregiver, just to kind of get my mind off everything else. So I joined this group. It was supposed to be a 30-day evolution, write 500 words a day for 30 days. Well, we got to 31 days, and we said, what do we do? We kept writing. And so we got to 90 and 100 and 300, and it went on for over a year. And so it was one of those kinds of things. Met a lot of good people. In fact, I think I was actually out in California visiting some friends, and one of the people on that particular Facebook group lived out there, and we got together, for a very quick lunch. But it was something. And when I saw 500 words, okay, maybe there's a connection there. But
I guess it's just it's enough to get a thought down and explain it a little bit, but not get into too much depth, not preach too much. I like to highlight people. I call it hold my beer. Like, for example, when Tom Brady was down like 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, he's like, all right, hold my beer. And he knocked it off. It comes from 9-ball when you're playing pool and, there's 5 balls left on the table. You have to head them all sequentially and no one thinks you can do it. It's like, yeah, hold my beer. And so one of the things I like to do is just highlight heroes. And whenever I come across one, I can get the point across. I can tell the story. 500 words seems to be about the point in which people's eyes glaze over anyways. So,
yeah. I had no problem writing 500. That wasn't the problem. The problem was, trying to get it. Several times we were so happy we get exactly 500 words. You hit.
I don't even know if I ever hit that. Right? Yeah. It's like it's an aim, but it certainly isn't.
Get down the right to that last sentence. Okay, 497 minutes. Okay,
stop. That's like haiku for 500. That's tough, Red.
So anyway, that happened a few times. And I said, this isn't working. So I did 1,000. Then I finally settled on about 1,100 for a few months, and that to me was a sweet zone for me, for my writing. Okay. But after a while, I said, a couple of years of this is fine, and I went back doing other things. But it was a good diversion. It helped me a lot mentally and physically. I actually joined NaNoWriMo, and I started writing a novel that has been sitting ever since. The story's written, the character development hasn't been done. But things happen. Eventually, it'll come out.
Yep.
But anyway, so you were a blogger for a while, and did that kind of lead you normally, for lack of a better word, into being an author?
No, and of course I skipped a point. When I hosted a television show on PBS called Money Hunt, which was the predecessor to the predecessor of Shark Tank, and this story is worth about $7.95 and get a Starbucks free coffee. But I actually had a book called Money Hunt 27 Rules for Building and Scaling a Great Business during .com. Worked out pretty well. It was actually HarperCollins, and I had a television show at the time, so I was off to the races. And then I took a nice 20-year hiatus for writing anything longer than 500 words. And but we have had this story from this hike for years. We thought about making it a play on Broadway. We actually worked with a producer and a director and just couldn't quite get it right, especially not on stage. And so at a certain point, that point was October of 2 years ago, obviously in the border of Gaza and Israel proper. October 8th was a big day. And October 9th, we decided, you know what? We got to tell our story, because we had hiked for basically a month, 1,100 miles through the deserts of Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Syria, and then crossed over into Israel. And we had a phenomenal story. We worked for 2 more years in Saudi Arabia after that. Phenomenal story to share. It's just been sitting around for a while. All of a sudden, October 8th, 2.5 years ago, it became very, very relevant. And so we got it out quickly. And we were surprised, but we were hopeful that it would be popular amongst English readers in the Middle East, and it really was.
And you said 1,100 miles in a month?
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife and I walked the Camino de Santiago about 10 years ago.
Good for you.
And
that's on my list.
That was 500 miles in 30 days. I can imagine what 1,100 miles would be.
Yeah, good for you. That the Camino is on our list for sure. So I'll follow in your footsteps on that one. You got your seashells still?
I do. I have everything that I need to have to document the fact that I was there.
Good for you.
In fact, I'll make you an offer. You get ready to do something like that, and you want to just do a fast phone call or Zoom. My wife and I'll sit here and answer any questions you got about it.
Absolutely. It reminds me of a time, actually. So the first chapter of the book, A Line in the Sand, actually is set here, which is Pamplona, Spain, running with the bulls. So it's not quite exactly where the Camino is, but when we were there in Pamplona and San Sebastian, we got to thinking, what other adventures could there be? And someone said, come on, do the Camino. And I figure I got a few more years of other higher impact adventures before I go Camino. So this year we're jumping out of the back of a 1944 C-47 on D-Day, June, with round canopy parachutes. So.
Well, my wife and I took Space Aid military flight over to Rota, Spain, went up to Madrid, ended up spending the night in Pamplona, took the bus the next day to San Jean Pied de Port, and then took us 3 days to get back from about a 2-hour bus ride. And after the first day, we were both ready to quit right then and there. We live in Houston. There's no mountains, and all our training for a year had been no mountains.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I am going uphill, and I can't stand it no more.
Yeah.
It was an eye opener. But we finished it.
Great story. I love stories, as you can tell.
The first book you wrote was what?
The first book was called A Line in the Sand. I actually had a copy because your producer suggested I grab one. So, it kind of looks like that. And it's hardcover, paperback, Kindle. And the Audible was narrated by a guy by the name of Eduardo Ballerini, who's a phenomenal orator. And so I actually prefer, I wrote the words together with Wells Jones, but when I hear them in Eduardo's voice, it sounds twice as good. So that was 2 years ago on KDP on Kindle, and then this month we have our second with the same characters and the same format, but this one is called Havana Familia, and it's based in Cuba.
Okay. I went down and visited my sister in Cuba several times. I guess she's been retired now about 5 years, but I was there before Castro was there because my dad was in the military, and then I've been down maybe four times, I think, in 5 years to visit my sister, but she was at Guantanamo Bay working.
Got it.
But it's kind of a really neat place to go to in the middle of February because everything else is so cold.
It's fantastic. Everybody in the United States went there until New Year's 1958, right? So if you visited Fort Castro, you were there under Batista. It was 1958, and this book is actually set in two periods, historical fiction, right? So we always have a present day, more or less, and then we pick 1 year in history that really kind of rolled forward and really affected the present day. And so that year is 1958 in Havana, Cuba. If that was a big year in Havana. And the mob had set up camp there and had an operation bigger than Vegas, was figuring that they were just going to pay off the new leader, just like they'd pay off the old leader. All kinds of things were coming apart at the seams in that moment. And so that is the moment that we chose to highlight together with 2016, which was actually when Obama opened up flawed relations with Cuba for a brief moment in time. We happened to have been there. We started and ran a tech incubator there and in New York and really got embedded into the startup scene. And then Trump came along, the laser gun came along, Rubio came along, and it was all over in a heartbeat. And so that was another denouement, just like 1958. And so those are the two periods of time that we cover. Now, it's historical fiction, so the characters are fictional, but the history is well researched. And as I like to say, historical fiction is my genre because it's easier to write.
Last night I was on a military Zoom meeting group of every month get together, and ironically, one of the subjects we discussed at length was the Bay of Pigs.
Fantastic! I'd love to listen in on that one.
But it's interesting. So you wrote your first book. How long did it take you to edit it?
We did work with an editor. So myself, I have a co-author, Wells Jones, and so we work side by side in writing it. But I wouldn't consider ourselves to be writers. There we go. Open it up. This got I'm very proud of the fact 500 plus 5-star reviews on Kindle. The editing was probably, I'm going to guess 6 weeks, maybe a month.
Oh, wow, short.
It was, I think it was a clean book. Although we try to write clean. And I'm more of a streak writer. Like I get something in my head and I just keep rolling. And Wells cleans up behind me. So the combination of the two and the fact that this is very important, Red. We've actually lived all of these adventures ourselves. So, we don't have to go for research and wonder what it was like. We did most of these things. And so the two of us were able to provide a fairly clean manuscript to the editor. And yeah, my estimate is it was a month or less before we hit send. And it was probably another month before the Audible came out. But all in, look, we took a long time to think about it, but then we got it done very quickly.
So you ran in front of the bulls?
I did. I was on the Mercaderes stretch, which is in between Ayuntamiento and Estafada. We chose that stretch because it's an S turn, and bulls are like 2,000 pounds, right? On like Louboutin heels. We could barely get around on these cobblestones, right? And by the way, they've been hanging out in the field for like their entire life with their brothers, and all of a sudden they're put in the pen and they're bussed into Pamplona. And they're caged up for the night. And then somebody sets off some firecrackers, rockets really. And it's like time to go, man, they are going. But we spent some time with a guy by the name of Dennis Clancy, who's an American, but very famous for getting on the horns. And that is literally running so close to the bull that you could touch them. You could see a couple of the guys there. And that's me in the corner above the left-hand side of the big bull. In any event, Dennis taught us, and what we chose was the Mercaderes S because the bulls actually run into one corner because they're losing their traction, and then they run into another. It's an S turn. So it's predictable as to where they're going to be on the track. Nowhere else is it predictable. And on the long stretch, Estafada, all the rookies show up. Now, we were rookies, but we decided we'd go with the pros because I would much rather risk my odds against a bull than risk my odds against tripping over a rookie who was looking backwards and then the bull. So that was our calculation. It worked. We had a great run. We got into the stadium and had a grand old time at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then went to the bar to drink our. It's I don't know, milk and brand. There's some concoction that's spelled in Basque and like with X's and Y's and K's in it, and I have no idea what it was. But at 9:30 in the morning, after evading 12 2,000-pound bulls, it seemed like a great way to have a breakfast.
I was involved, not necessarily running, but I was sitting on a fairly high fence in the Azores when they let some bulls loose. And this was a tradition there, about the same thing like Pamplona. And I'm minding my own business and not doing anything. And this all of a sudden somebody comes running toward me to escape the bull. And then he goes over the fence and the bull goes over the fence. I was absolutely amazed at how high those bulls could jump.
Yeah. And the rule of thumb when you're running with bulls is you don't have to be faster than the bull. You have to be faster than your buddy in between you and the bull. That's all.
And that's life in general.
That's life in general.
So you got the book. When did you start marketing the book? Because that's something that we as authors have a tendency to put off to the last minute, even till after publication.
Well, look, I didn't go with a traditional old school publisher like HarperCollins, which we did the first book that I had with Cliff Enico called Money Hunt. This was straight. And the reason we chose that was because, look, we were on top of current events. October 8th had just happened. It was in the news. Everybody wanted to talk about it. And suddenly we had a book with a phenomenal story based on the region. And not that many Americans have done what we did, right? So it was fairly unique. We went podcast after podcast after podcast. And that really was stock and trade on probably 95% of our marketing. Did 100 podcasts in the first year.
Wow, that's impressive. We're coming up on a commercial break here, about a minute and a half, very, very shortly. When we come back, let's talk a little bit your covers, how you get the art done, those kinds of things. That's kind of the direction I want to go after the break.
Sounds great.
Okay, fantastic.
In a noisy world, true connection begins with listening. Elevated listening transforms every conversation in just 5 simple steps. Pause and breathe. Set your intention. Listen with curiosity. Reflect back. Agree on one next step. Join the listening mentor on Let's Finally Talk with Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, the listening mentor, where we help you find inner peace, one conversation at a time. Streaming every day, Let's Finally Talk TV show with Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, only here on USA, Global TV and Radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channels to watch and engage with all our content.
Red O'Loughlin here. We're on the Corner Bookstore on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. My guest today is Miles Spencer. Miles, please join me back up here on stage.
Hey, Red, ready to roll.
Ready to roll. The book covers that you have, how do you get those done? Is that part of the package with the publisher, or did you do something different?
No, not at all. A Line in the Sand is actually a beautiful vista, which is across the front and back cover of an area called Wadi Rum. Wadi Rum sits in the on the border essentially between northern Saudi Arabia and southern Jordan. It's like a moonscape. So much so that Dune, I believe it was filmed there. Star Wars is filmed there. It basically looks like Mars, right? And it's also where Lawrence of Arabia, T.E. Lawrence, trekked through as well on his way to Aqaba during the Arab Revolt. So when we arrived there on camel, we were just struck by the vast awesomeness and by the heat of the place. It's called El Hul, the anvil of heat, and top temperature there was 126 Fahrenheit. It took our breath away. And we took some photos, but also did some watercolors. And it was that was the inspiration of the front cover of the book. Now, also in the book, and you'll see on the front cover, there is a very slight line of the railroad tracks. Now, our entire trek was based on T.E. Lawrence, Seven Pillars of Wisdom, where he hiked from, he led the Arab Revolt together with Faisal from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, to Damascus, Syria. But what they were doing mostly was blowing up the Turkish railroad, which went from Medina, a holy site, to other places in the Ottoman Empire for the pilgrims that were coming down. And it was extremely aggravating for the Turks to defend that. And Lawrence had the good intellect to essentially invent guerrilla warfare, because he realized that they always had to be in the same place on that railroad in order to defend it. Yet he and his group of Arabs could be anywhere just over the next dune. And so he was really able to create quite a guerrilla offensive against the Ottomans because of that asymmetrical warfare ratios that existed. So that was the inspiration for the front. It was done by a guy by the name of Alex Blomlinski, who's a great artist, and that's original art. And the concept for it, actually, I got to give credit to Adam Drake, who was my co-founder at Reflecta, who concepted it. But Alex was the one that finished it off. It's a beautiful, beautiful cover. And I will say, Alex did Havana Familia, and that's just as good.
Did you get a chance to get into no man's land there up in that part of Saudi Arabia?
Oh, sure. I mean, we were in the desert, man.
Well, I know there's an area there that's designated no man's land, and I know it's pretty close to that Jordan.
It's there. That's El Hul, the pretty much the hottest place in the Gulf and the Crescent, and it's pretty nasty. It's like Thunderdome and Dune and Star Wars all rolled into one. It's hot. Not a lot of oil up there either, so it's kind of been left alone.
I was in Bahrain quite a bit with the military, and water temperatures are constantly over 100. You walk out of a bar at 2 a.m. in the morning, it's 104 degrees. It's an interesting place.
Interesting place.
Let's move on just a little bit. You have the Havana one coming out here shortly. You have anything else planned for your characters?
Yeah, well, absolutely. So in Havana, the characters continue to develop and continue to do their adventures and their historical uh, observations and understanding. And it looks like after this is done, the following book, number 3 in the trilogy, is Peru. And the theme that's emerging is a little bit like white men behaving badly in the clubs of London, Paris, and other colonial strongholds. And, they'll grab this part of a country or that part of a country and teach them religion and other important things in exchange for removing all of the gold or oil or precious minerals beneath their feet. And they do a split with them for a while until the locals get smart. And then, there's either a war or a new deal. And so that's why we go back the 100-ish years to look at, man, how did we set this up? So the next one's coming. I just got back from Madrid, and it was full of beautiful portraits and exhibits of white men behaving badly. In this case, it's Isabella, but it was basically the conquering of the New World and the extraction of the riches therefrom.
Have you been to Peru?
Oh, yeah.
Have you climbed Machu Picchu?
I have. Machu Picchu, Cerro, a couple of the others. Yes, I have. Full Inca Trail.
How about Huayna Picchu, the one that's right behind it?
The Sugarloaf. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was an interesting climb. I did that a while back.
Yeah, straight up. And my girlfriend at the time was along with me, and we were about 3/4 of the way up, and she turns back and has a look, and there's the Urubamba River snaking below, and she says, I'm afraid of heights.
I wasn't afraid of anything there until I started coming down.
Yeah, exactly. I said, well, just keep going up. You'll be fine.
Up was no problem. Down became a major problem as soon as I got to the edge and decided, oh, whoa, my goodness.
Wow. Yeah, I have a Cerro story, which is when you're on Huayna, you look up to the big one, it's just Cerro. And I'll spend 30 seconds on that. It was a very misty morning. I did Huayna, and then I went, you still have time for Cerro? Yeah, I do, but it's really overcast. So on my way up, saw a couple of people, and they kind of looked at me like, you're still going? So yeah. And I got to the top, and there's this essentially, I can barely see my feet, right? But I can see when it hits the path, and I can hear a flag at the peak. I knew there was a flag at the peak. And so I'm just walking towards that slowly, and they're hummingbirds and orchids, right? I mean, I'm basically in a cloud on my way to heaven. Well, what was interesting was I didn't realize how close I actually was, because I went to the flag, might have taken a picture, went back down. And the guide, who didn't come with me, took like the afternoon off. He's just like, oh, you got to chop a Cerro? Yeah. Did you get to the flagpole? Yeah. It was very, very overcast. Did you crawl on your knees at the end? I said, no. Just followed the path. He says, oh, most people crawl on their knees. I said, why is that? He said, well, it's only about 30 inches wide, and it's a 3,800 foot sheer drop to the Urubamba River. So most people crawl, but you walk. That's great. I didn't sleep that night thinking about it.
Things happen for a reason, don't they?
They do. They do.
I know we talked backstage about legacy, capturing that intergenerational storytelling. I know you wanted to make sure we covered that today, so let's wander to that topic for a little bit.
Well, sure. I mean, I think we have backed into the light, as T.E. Lawrence would say. These are all stories, and they're important stories. And what's interesting, legacy sounds like a big, highfalutin word. But the reality is every person, every family has these wonderful stories. They're probably upstairs in the attic in a shoebox gathering dust, like love letters and Polaroid pictures and the rest, right? But the reality is they don't survive the generations. And that's why, to us, intergenerational storytelling, the stories that we just went over today, they deserve to be heard by my grandchildren. I don't have any yet. And my great-grandchildren. And they're not going to look it up in a book and read chapter 7. They basically want to have a spontaneous and dynamic conversation, natural language conversation. And so it was 9 months ago that Adam Drake and I actually found a way to take all of these stories that we have. And instead, there's an African saying, it's like every time a person dies, an entire library of stories burns to the ground. Well, we're the firemen. We don't let those stories burn. And so Reflecta is basically taking all of the things that are up in the attic, synthesizing them into a recognizable image and likeness of a loved one that's capable of a spontaneous and dynamic conversation anytime you want. I'll give you an example. In the Spencer family, elderberry pies are very, very important. And Thanksgiving comes, my sister says, I forgot the recipe. And I dialed up my mom. And she walked her through the Crisco shortening and how to put ice around for the dough and don't overwork it. And here's how to combine the elderberries with the sugar so that it sets up properly. And we had an elderberry pie because my mother had walked my sister through it. The only interesting part of that story is my mother passed away 25 years ago. Mm. But all of that information is contained within her Reflecta reflection. And we can pull it up spontaneously and dynamically anytime we want. By the way, my dad, who passed away 8 years ago, said the grace at Thanksgiving dinner, right? So that's the power of Reflecta, and that's the power of keeping these stories and these legacies alive for future generations.
My dad passed away in 2004, and I did his eulogy. I labeled it like Tears in the Rain after the 82 Blade Runner movie, almost
Absolutely.
the last.
Wash away like tears in the rain. Yeah.
And so, it's, when you have a full life and there's just so many things there, it's just, I'm right now, our first great grandson just turned 2 last week.
Congratulations.
And so I've had this intention now for over a year to create a YouTube series of short videos talking about this, that, and whatever. And you've given me reinforcement to actually start making this thing happen.
I would just say, Red, YouTube, fine, but he can't ask you questions. Okay. It's just going to be the stories that you tell. I propose that you consider, and we'll hook you up, Reflecta. You go there and you can talk to my dad. As a matter of fact, you can ask him about me. You can ask him about my career. You can ask him about his career. It's a spontaneous, dynamic conversation. His name is Arthur. There's one other that's public. Her name is Virginia. All the rest are private, family to family. And you can get all those stories down. And they can have a conversation with you in your voice with a beautiful watercolor of yourself for the next 1,000 years or so.
With my long flowing hair.
Yeah, there we go. However you want yourself. You see, it's called Reflecta because these are reflections. They're not bringing you back to life. These are not humans that we're talking about. These are reflections of people, often the best reflections of people, and that it lasts through the generations. And we started with those that had passed. I mentioned my father and my mother, and those were the inspiration for the business. But now, military veterans, people of faith, senior citizens, people with Alzheimer's or dementia or things like that are in senior centers that want to get their stories down. Mm-hmm. They're flooding onto the Reflecta platform left and right. And it's a beautiful thing. And people often ask me, how do I start? I need all these things from the shoebox. And no, not really. You can add them later. The way to start is to open it up and tell a story, because the biographer is so smart now. It keeps you walking through until it creates basically a recognizable image and likeness. And every time you have a conversation, whether you're building it or it's been shipped, if you will, or ready for prime time, you have to be at 80% score in order to text and 90% score in order to talk. But the reason we do that is the emotional load of someone that knows you. They need to ease into it. So it is so easy to get started, and it's a beautiful thing.
Well, let me offer you this. This program, the Corner Bookstore, is primarily authors and publishing and anything book related. I have another show I do literally in about 19 minutes from now called The Wise Ones. And that's where I'm looking for leadership, business leaders, entrepreneurs, people who want to share their wisdom, their lessons learned in life. You would be a fantastic candidate. We would spend most of the time talking about Reflecta and that kind of business opportunity, how it was created, how it works, et cetera. So I think you'd be a fantastic guest for that show.
Let's do it.
So, okay, I have your email. I will send you a link to that one, and we will schedule something here in the near future to make that happen.
That'd be fun.
Do you do any videos for your books?
We do quite a bit. So the book's two years old now. And so that was mostly podcasts and Instagram. But what's happened is been on so many podcasts that they actually turn into short videos. So YouTube Shorts, which cuts everything down to a 30-second clip, is great. There's an app called Opus Clips. I don't own it, but there's a plug for them, which you basically take the YouTube link of anything like this that you've done, and it cuts it down into little highly relevant pieces, and that goes up on YouTube Shorts and other places. You tag that to your book to where they can purchase it. A lot more traction because it's becoming a video world. It just is, right?
Yeah, I got in touch with some different AIs a while back, and I go to ChatGPT, I get it to generate me a 35 or 55 second diatribe of exactly what I want. Then I tweak it to where it sounds human.
Yeah.
And then I say here, and it takes and creates images and has the text at the bottom. And it looks like a really nice commercial. And that's one of the ways that I'm using, the video AI aspect of it for my books.
That's great. I perhaps in my genre, historical fiction, all of that makes for a movie or a TV series or shorts or something like that, because we have the content, right? I've been blogging for 20 years. There's content there that probably could be in a better form. I believe that the acid test of what's human is video, and there's two sides of that. Created by humans, perhaps with AI assistance, but nevertheless created by humans and consumed by humans, which means humans have to buy it. In other words, this looks real, I'm going to watch.
But, we're at the beginning stages now of just taking text and creating movies.
Oh, sure. We're so on Reflecta, we actually have right now 10,000 stories on the platform.
Okay.
And they literally real time become movies just right out of the conversation. Now that's in beta right now. So if you go to the site, you're not going to see that, but I've seen it. It's coming fast.
Well, we're toward the end of the show. How do people get in touch with you, Miles?
LinkedIn is fine. Links there. If you want to learn more about Reflecta, that works as well. I should have put the link to Line in the Sand and Havana Familia, but if you go to milesspencer.com, you're not going to miss it. That's a good start. Please don't come to my front door.
Okay, the spelling for our audio audience who will be picking up this broadcast later on is Miles, Miles, Spencer, SPENCER.com, and his company is Reflecta, REFLEKTA.ai, Reflecta.ai. And so check them out. We had a great time today. Miles, thank you so very much for your time. And I honestly, truly look forward to us connecting again. And let's talk more about Reflecta and the choices and options it gives people.
That's cool. À la prochaine, as they say in France. Until the next time.
Okay.
Thank you, Red.
Take care. Red Laughlin here. I'm wrapping up the final minute here on my show. The Corner Bookstore highlights authors, publishers, editors, anything at all in the book world. And I thought we had a very super connection today with historical fiction and the world of writing, blogging, etc. So my current project is called Aging Sucks. It's a book I'm writing primarily about the hallmarks of aging, hallmarks of health, hallmarks of disease. In fact, later on today, I'm going to be talking about the hallmarks and pathways of dementia, neurodegenerative disease on my show Talking Heads in about an hour and 15 minutes. But that's my focus on what I can do to help take something that's complex and make it easy to understand. So that when you go to your doctor, you say, hey, doc, what about this? And so, but for awareness and education, that's where I focus most of my energies. So until next week or until 15 minutes from now, take care of y'all, and we will catch you next week. Bye now.
In a world craving connection, one platform dared to dream bigger. USA Global TV and Radio, a beacon for global voices, authentic storytelling, and elevated listening. Led by visionary Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, the journey from a spark to a global force is now captured in one inspiring book. Honored with YouTube's Silver Creator Award for surpassing 100,000 subscribers. Discover the evolution, the challenges, the triumphs, and the unstoppable spirit that created a global movement. Executive producer Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang. Creative director Paul Garcia. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication, or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited. Now an Amazon #1 new release in paperback and ebook. Broadcasting Brilliance, the evolution of USA Global TV and Radio, is inspiring readers around the world. Join the movement that's redefining global media one story at a time.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USAGlobalTV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.